We have a massive Avalanche injury update, and this is huge for the future and the success of the team. We're talking goaltending today, and we're talking Scott Wedgewood, who recently sustained a minor upper body injury somewhere in the back region, and his timetable, as far as how soon he'd be able to play again, it wasn't known. But we have a very notable update regarding his status that we're going to be breaking down today. And if true, it's going to be massive for not just Scott Wedgewood, not just for the team, but just for the whole conversation around dominant goaltending. We've talked about it a lot on this channel, and we could be gearing up for some of the most dominant goaltending in the National Hockey League for the Colorado Avalanche. So it's very exciting stuff. And because it's so exciting and because it's relevant, because it's the Avs, you guys know we're breaking it down here on Colorado Avalanche Digest. Everything that's going on in the world of Colorado Avalanche hockey, injury updates, trade rumors, game recaps, any sort of news that is happening in the realm of Colorado Avalanche hockey, we're covering it right here. And so with that in mind, we want to make sure that you guys are supporting us, and we want to make sure that you guys are locked into the best possible source for Colorado Avalanche news and updates, and that's right here at Avalanche Digest. So if you're not part of that 76% that's watching our videos every single day but not subscribed to the channel, we would really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button, join the fastest growing source for Colorado Avalanche news and updates and rumors. Guys, the growth has been unreal lately. We just recently surpassed 2,000 subscribers, and we're trying to just continue to get as big as we possibly can, and that's where you guys come in. It's completely free, and it takes literally like 5 seconds to hit that subscribe button, so we'd really appreciate if you could support and help us continue our growth here at Avalanche Digest. Thank you guys so much for supporting. For those that are already subscribed and a part of this ever fast growing Colorado Avalanche family, we appreciate your support very much. All right, without further ado, said it already, but we're talking goaltending. Scott Wedgewood could be starting as early as tomorrow against the Predators, according to the Hockey News. His minor back injury that he sustained against the Vancouver Canucks could be all that, just minor. It could be essentially irrelevant for the long-term success of Scott Wedgewood and for the long-term success of having him on this team. And if that's true, we're gearing up to have an extremely dominant goalie tandem that's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Very exciting stuff for the Avs. This all comes from the fact that they made a fairly interesting roster move following their back-to-back matinee win on Sunday against the Philadelphia Flyers. Avalanche reassigned goalie Trent Miner back to their AHL affiliate, the Colorado Eagles. And so that's huge for the Avs because you look at the fact that the Avs are still on a road trip, and you look at the fact that Mackenzie Blackwood played all the games on the road trip. They essentially grabbed Miner to bring him on the road trip just in case something with Mackenzie Blackwood ended up not working out or he wasn't playing good. Obviously, you need to have a backup goaltender, so that's what Trent Miner was serving as. But with the fact that there's only one game left in the road trip, sending Trent Miner back to Colorado, sending him back to the AHL affiliate of the Avs, that could very well mean that Scott Wedgewood is ready and that we could see him start against Nashville tomorrow, which, like I said, would be huge. So Miner recalled to the big club following Scott Wedgewood's injury a few days ago. He came up for the road trip, and it was even believed that Trent Miner would be starting in one of these back-to-back games that they had over the weekend. It's been a long road trip. Started out in New York, or started out on the island playing the New York Islanders, and then followed by a back-to-back against the Rangers and the Flyers. But instead, after a rough game against the New York Islanders, Mackenzie Blackwood turned it on and played lights out in between the pipes for both games in the back-to-back over the weekend, starting against the Rangers and the Flyers, respectively. Picked up back-to-back wins, one of them in overtime against the Flyers and the Rangers. And with that in mind, Mackenzie Blackwood's now played 3 straight games, 2 of them on a back-to-back. Now, they had some time off in between, but the fact that Trent Miner was sent home, we're playing against a struggling Nashville Predators team. This could very well mean that we've got Scott Wedgewood back and ready to play. And there's a lot of implications around not just him being ready to play, but what it's going to mean that both of these guys are in their prime right now. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later. So Avs send Trent Miner to the Colorado Eagles. Scott Wedgewood is at least suiting up on Tuesday night in Nashville. He's on the road trip. He will be wearing pads and on the bench, whether he's backing it up or starting. But because Mackenzie Blackwood played both games this weekend and played against the Islanders, I think it's 1,000% viable that we see him get the start, which means that he's back and ready to go for the Avs. And that's going to be huge for the continued success of this team and staying in this very dominant phase that they're in and that they have been in for the entirety of the NHL season so far. So let's just talk a little bit about Scott Wedgewood, but also Mackenzie Blackwood, and just how the two of them have complemented each other and how this theme during the season has kind of been, or starting to progress into this scenario where it's kind of unorthodox, in which we have two starting caliber goaltenders, and we're getting closer and closer to that being the case for the Colorado Avalanche. So looking at the goals against average rankings, Jesper Wallstedt and Logan Thompson, 1 and 2. Scott Wedgewood right up there, third in the National Hockey League in goals against average. He's got a 207 goals against average in his very dominant season so far. And then look who's just a few spots below him. Right there at number 6th in the top 10 as well. 221 goals against average, Mackenzie Blackwood. So both Avs goaltenders have been really strong in the goals against average department. They don't let a lot of goals. The amount of 1-goal games that Scott Wedgewood has this season, I don't know the exact number, but I can almost guarantee you that it's up there for sure. Very, very good stuff for the Colorado Avalanche in that regard. But it's not just goals against average that's so good for our goaltending right now. Save percentage as well. Look at the two guys that are right next to each other with the same number at the 4 and 5 spot. You've got Jesper Wallstedt, Logan Thompson, and Casey DeSmith, who are 1, 2, and 3 respectively. And then in the 4 and 5 spot, tied up with Devin Cooley as well with a .920 save percentage, it's both Avs goaltenders, Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgewood. Let's just talk again and go back in time again to where we were last year. We had an Alexander Georgiev as our starter and a Justus Oninen as our backup. Avalanche goaltending at this time last year was in shambles. Shambles, I tell you. So much struggle going on in between the pipes for the Avs. Chris MacFarland worked his magic, and he got these two studs in the locker room for the Avs in return. And you guys know what the initial plan was. You know what the initial plan was supposed to be. Scott Wedgewood, a little bit of an older guy, comes in as a veteran backup, kind of a vibes guy as well. I mean, we see how good of a vibes he is in the locker room for the Avs. And then you have Mackenzie Blackwood, who's so young, has so much potential, is such a strong goaltender, was so good for the San Jose Sharks. He comes in as the starter. With Mackenzie Blackwood's injury at the start of the year, we don't really know what's going to happen with Wedgewood. I'm a firm believer that Mackenzie Blackwood injury was just what the Avs needed, because it got Scott Wedgewood into this position where he has to play like a starting goaltender. And that's what he's been doing the entire year. But the most exciting part about all of this now is that Scott Wedgewood got injured as well. And that allowed Mackenzie Blackwood to step into this same exact sort of a role that Scott Wedgewood had to be in at the beginning of the year, which is, we don't have an NHL goaltender to back me up right now. It is up to me. Otherwise, no hate on Trent Miner. I'm rooting for you, man. He's a very good goaltender, but it's either me or it's our AHL goalie backing me up. And so with Scott Wedgewood not available to play, Mackenzie Blackwood really wedged himself back into his prime, because he struggled a little bit to start the year coming off of recovering from that injury. He wasn't the prime Blackie that we know and that we love. That's obviously true. But now that he's had his chance to shine without anybody backing him up that has as much trust as Wedgewood, we're now entering this era of the season where we might have prime Wedgewood and prime Blackwood at the same time, which would be unreal. I mean, we just talked about it. Our two goaltenders rank top 6 in both goals against average and save percentage in the National Hockey League. They have both played a pivotal reason in the Avs being as good as they are, being the top of the NHL in goal differential and in points, being first in the Central Division, having the dominant record that they have, only having 2 regulation losses so far this season, only having lost by more than 1 goal one time this season. These two have played a huge role in that. And now that we might have both of them back in prime form, it could just mean all the more of how dangerous the Avs are going to be. And with that, I'd like to ask each of you that are watching a question. If you just bear with me here for 1 second. Here it is right here. Apologies. This is what I want to know from you guys because I'm wondering the same thing and I don't know what the case is going to be, but I think we're about to find out soon because we've got Scott Wedgewood coming back from his injury. We've got Blackie playing out of his mind. We know Wedgewood's playing out of his mind as well. Might take him 1 or 2 games to get back in the swing of things, but he's like Team Canada contention level of playing right now. So with all that in mind, what do you guys think? I want to know. Do we see more of Wedgewood, more of Blackwood? Or is this the time of the year where we get to start to see a generally even rotation where these two are sharing the schedule pretty frequently? So I want to hear your guys' answer in the comments. Give me what you think is going to be the case. Do we see more of Wedgewood, more of Blackwood, or a generally even rotation? Give me a W in the comments for Wedgewood, an M for Mackenzie Blackwood, or a B for both. That's if we see more of Wedgewood, more of Blackwood, or more of even rotation. A W for Wedgy, an M for Mackenzie Blackwood, or a B for both. So we'll see if Scott Wedgewood does start tomorrow. He's going to dress against Nashville. That's going to be big for the Avs. But like I said, we're approaching this time of the year where we're looking like we're going to have both of our goaltenders in peak form, which is just going to continue to help the Avs be as good as they've been this season. All right, that's going to do it today on Avalanche Digest. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for supporting. Have a great rest of your day. And like I said, let us know in the comments how you're feeling about the Avs. We love interacting with y'all in the comments. And as of course, give us the answer to what you guys think is going to be the situation with this goaltending sort of dilemma, you might even call it, that we have, but it's not really a dilemma. It's an amazing situation. A W for Wedgy, an M for Mackenzie Blackwood, or a B for both. Who's going to be seeing the ice more now that both these guys are in prime form? All right, thanks, you guys. Thanks so much, you guys. We'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.